Hey, don't judge me. What right do you have to judge me? Has anyone ever said that to you? It almost immediately ends the conversation. Anytime we have any kind of criticism to offer, any kind of concern that we want to express, any kind of advice that we want to offer, we immediately hear those words. Hey, don't you judge me. And in the minds of many people, it's backed up by the one who has all authority, Jesus Christ himself. In Matthew chapter 7, verse 1, Jesus himself says, "Judge not, that you be not judged." You've probably heard that 100 times. Maybe you've even said it yourself. It is probably the most well-known, misquoted, and misunderstood passage in all the Bible. And it's used to express the idea that you don't have the right to pass any kind of moral evaluations on anyone ever. We simply need to be tolerant of everyone's behavior, regardless of what they say and what they do. But what if I told you that that's actually not what Jesus is saying at all? What if this isn't a command to turn off our brains, to suspend all judgment, but instead a powerful warning about a specific kind of judgment? So today we're going to tackle the verse that most people know, but most people get wrong. It's the verse that culture loves to quote, but they never actually finish reading the context. The cultural idea is simple. Judging is wrong, period. And we see it everywhere. We are told that tolerance is the highest virtue, and pointing our finger at anyone and calling anything wrong, well, that's intolerant, and that's quite frankly, judgmental. And we're not supposed to do that. But the first rule of understanding any kind of writing, especially the Bible, is that you have to take things in context. We cannot just take a phrase, a verse, a sentence, and yank it out of its context and apply it and make it say anything we want it to say. We have to understand what's being said within the context of the passage. So let's do that. Let's go back to Matthew chapter 7 and let's read the context and let's figure out what Jesus is actually saying. Matthew 7 verse 1 begins, "Judge not, that you be not judged. For with what judgment you pronounce, you will be judged. And with the measure you use, it will be measured back to you." All right, that sounds pretty straightforward, doesn't it? But then Jesus uses an analogy to help us understand what he means. And the analogy as well, it's kind of comical. Let's keep reading. Verse 3, "Why do you see the speck in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that is in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, 'Let me take the speck out of your eye,' when there is a log in your own eye? You hypocrite." Now, did you notice the last word in that reading? The last word in that reading is the word hypocrite. That gives us some insight into who Jesus is talking to. He isn't talking to the person that is concerned about the welfare of another. He isn't talking about someone who is going astray and needs to be brought back. He's talking about someone who is judging hypocritically. This is the fault finder, the one who is obsessed with the mistakes of others, while at the same time ignoring the mistakes in his own life. He looks over and sees the splinter in his brother's eye, but then he ignores the log in his own eye. And then here's the point that everyone misses. Keep reading and watch what Jesus said in verse 5. "First take the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye." He doesn't say, remove the log out of your own eye and then ignore the speck out of your brother's eye. He says, once you deal with your own issues, once you take care of that log in your own eye, then you'll be able to take the speck out of your brother's eye. The idea is deal with your own sin first, and then you can deal with the sins of others. It's wrong for me to point out your mistake when I'm sitting here doing the same thing. That's the concept. Don't judge hypocritically. And so Matthew 7 verse 1 is not a prohibition to judgment. It's a prohibition to judging hypocritically. It's a call for self-examination before you point out the mistakes of others. Now that makes a lot of sense when you think about what that says in light of other things that Jesus said. For example, in John chapter 7 verse 24, you have the Pharisees who condemned Jesus because he healed on the Sabbath day. And Jesus responded to that by saying this: do not judge by appearances, but judge with right judgment. Now, your translation might have the words judge righteously or judge with correct judgment. Jesus is telling us that we are not to judge based on appearance. I can't judge someone because of their race. I can't judge someone because of the way they dress, and I can't judge someone because of the situation they seem to be in. I am the judge based on what is right. And so there it is. Jesus himself actually commands us to judge, but he commands us to judge in a very specific way. He commands us to judge right judgment. Not self-righteous judgment, not hypocritical judgment, but judgment that is based on what is right and motivated by love. You see, the goal of right judgment is not condemnation, it's restoration. Our intention of trying to remove the speck out of our brother's eye isn't to shame him. It isn't to lift ourselves up in superiority. It's to help them. So what does that mean for us? It means that the don't judge me crowd, well, they have it half right. We should absolutely be against the kind of arrogant, hypocritical, self-righteous judgment that just wants to tear down people instead of lift them up and help them. That's what Jesus was condemning. But it doesn't mean that we should suspend all judgment. We are called to discern between right and wrong, between truth and falsehood, between what is healthy behavior and what is damaging behavior. First in our lives, and then with humility and love in the lives of others. The goal is right judgment. The goal of removing the speck out of your brother's eye is not to shame him. It is not to lift ourselves up in superiority. It's to help them. So the next time you hear someone say, "Hey, don't judge me," remember the context of Matthew chapter 7 verse 1 where that passage is found. The question isn't if we should judge. The question is, how should we judge? Are we judging like a hypocrite, self-righteously pointing out the mistakes of others when we ourselves are guilty of the same thing? Or are we in love and humility seeking to help other people see more clearly, while first making sure that we don't have our own blind spots? That's Matthew 7 verse 1. Thank you for watching my video. I hope that it's helped you understand a little bit better about what Jesus was actually saying in Matthew 7 verse 1. If this has helped you in any way, hit the like button and subscribe. And make sure you don't miss any of my future videos. But before you go, I have a question for you. What's another verse that you think people are constantly getting wrong, misunderstanding? Let me know in the comments below. See you next time.